The title of today's story is East of the Sun and West of the Moon. So let's start the story. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between the rolling hills and deep forests, there lived a poor farmer with his wife and their 3 daughters. Life was hard and the family struggled to make ends meet. Despite their poverty, the daughters were all beautiful and kind-hearted. And the youngest, named Elara, was the fairest and gentlest of them all. One cold winter evening, as the family sat around the fire in their humble cottage, there was a loud knock on the door. The farmer opened it to find a great white bear standing on the doorstep. The bear spoke in a deep, gentle voice. "Good evening. Do not be afraid. I mean you no harm. I have heard of your troubles, and I have come to offer you a bargain. If you will give me your youngest daughter, Elara, to be my companion, I will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams." The farmer was shocked and frightened, but the idea of wealth tempted him. He turned to his wife, who was equally unsure, but then they both looked at Elara. Despite her fear, Elara knew her family needed help, and, with a brave heart, she agreed to go with the bear. The next morning, the bear returned and carried Elara away on his back. He took her to a grand castle hidden deep in the forest, where everything was made of gold and precious stone. Elara was treated like a queen, with beautiful clothes, delicious food, and every comfort she could imagine. The bear was kind to her, and though she missed her family, she began to feel at home in the castle. However, every night when Elara went to bed, she felt the presence of someone in the darkness of her room, a figure she could not see but knew was there. He never spoke, but she thought it was a bear who came to her room at night. Time passed, and Elara became increasingly curious about the mysterious figure in her room. One night he secretly lit a small candle to see who was in his room. To her surprise, she found not a bear, but a handsome prince. Startled by the light, the prince woke up and looked at her with sad eyes. "Oh, Elara," he said, "why did you do this? I was under an enchantment, cursed to be a bear by day and a man by night. If you had waited just 1 year without trying to see me, the curse would have been broken. But now, because you lit the candle, I must leave you and return to my wicked stepmother's palace, east of the sun and west of the moon." Before Elara could reply, the prince vanished, leaving her alone in the castle. Heartbroken, she knew she had to find him and set things right. She set out on a journey, determined to reach the palace east of the sun and west of the moon, no matter how far or difficult it might be. Elara wandered for days and weeks, asking everyone she met if they knew the way. But no one had ever heard of such a place. Finally, she came to a small cottage where an old woman lived. The old woman welcomed her, and after hearing Elara's story, told her, "I do not know the way to the palace, but I can give you something that may help you. Take this golden apple. It is a magical gift that may open doors for you." Grateful, Elara continued her journey. She next came to another cottage where another old woman lived. This woman gave her a golden comb, telling her it too was a magical gift. Finally, she met a third old woman who gave her a golden spinning wheel, saying, "This will be of great use to you." Armed with these magical gifts, Elara traveled further until she reached the edge of the world where the North Wind lived. The North Wind was fierce and powerful, but when he heard Elara's story, he took pity on her. "I have never been to the palace east of the sun and west of the moon," he said, "but I can take you as close as I can." The North Wind carried Elara on his back, flying over mountains and oceans, through storms and snow, until they reached a great mountain of glass. "This is as far as I can take you," the North Wind said. "The palace lies just beyond, but you must climb this mountain on your own." The mountain was steep and slippery, but Elara was determined. She began to climb, and as she did, she met a great eagle who offered to help her. "Give me the golden apple," the eagle said, "and I will carry you to the top." Elara did so, and the eagle lifted her up to the summit. At the top of the mountain stood the palace, a dark and foreboding place. Elara approached the gate and was met by a servant of the wicked stepmother. "What do you want here?" the servant asked. "I have come to find the prince who was taken from me," Elara replied. The servant laughed cruelly. "You may see him, but only if you trade me that golden comb." Elara hesitated, but knowing she had no other choice, she handed over the comb. She was led inside the palace where she found the prince, but he was under a deep sleep and could not be woken. Desperate, Elara used her last gift, the golden spinning wheel, to buy one more chance to see the prince. This time she was allowed to stay by his side for the night. As she wept beside him, her tears fell on his face, and the warmth of her love broke the wicked stepmother's spell. The prince awoke, and upon seeing Elara, he knew she had saved him. Together they confronted the wicked stepmother, whose power was broken by their love. The palace began to crumble, and the mountain of glass melted away. The prince and Elara escaped just in time, flying back to the castle that had once been their home. The prince, now free from the curse, asked Elara to marry him, and she joyfully agreed. They returned to the farmer's cottage, where the family was overjoyed to see their beloved daughter again. The prince and Elara were married in a grand celebration, and they ruled the kingdom with wisdom and kindness for the rest of their days.
The title of today's story is The Goose Girl, so let's start the story. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, there lived a beautiful princess named Elara. She was kind, gentle, and loved by all who knew her. She lived with her parents and a kind fairy. Elara was betrothed to a prince from a neighboring kingdom, whom she had never met. Her parents, the king and queen, decide that the time has come for her to travel to meet her future husband. The king and queen prepared a grand entourage to accompany Elara on her journey. Among the servants was a maid named Hazel, who had been with Elara since childhood. As a final gift, the fairy gave Elara a magical horse named Falada, who could speak and understand human language. As they traveled, Hazel became envious of the princess's beauty and her future as a queen. She devised a wicked plan to take Elara's place. One night, while the entourage was resting, Hazel approached Elara with a devious smile. "Princess," she said, "why don't you go for a walk while I prepare a special drink for you? It will help you relax after our long journey." Elara, trusting her maid, agreed and went for a walk. When she returned, Hazel handed her a drink laced with a sleeping potion. As soon as Elara drank it, she fell into a deep sleep. Hazel quickly dressed in the princess's clothes and ordered the servants to treat her as their new mistress. She threatened them with severe punishment if they revealed the truth. When Elara woke up, she found herself wearing Hazel's clothes and was treated as a mere maid. Hazel, now posing as the princess, ordered Elara to tend to the geese in the castle's pasture when they reached the prince's kingdom. The loyal horse, Falada, tried to warn the servants, but Hazel, fearing exposure, had him killed. She ordered Falada's head to be mounted above the castle gate, thinking it would silence him forever. Despite her lowly position, Elara remained kind and hard-working. Every day, she would pass under Falada's head and speak to him. "Oh, Falada, hanging there," she would say. And the horse's head would respond, "Oh, princess passing by, if your mother knew your fate, her heart would surely break." One day, as Elara was tending the geese, the young prince, named Lothar, noticed her. He was struck by her beauty and grace, even in her humble attire. He began to visit the pasture more often, curious about the girl who seemed so different from the others. One afternoon, as Prince Lothar approached, Elara spoke to Falada's head once again. The prince overheard their conversation and was puzzled. He decided to investigate further and asked Elara about her life and how she came to be a goose girl. With tears in her eyes, Elara told him the whole story. Prince Lothar was outraged by Hazel's deceit and cruelty. He promised Elara that he would help her reclaim her rightful place. Together they devised a plan to expose Hazel's treachery. That evening, Lothar invited Hazel to a grand feast in the castle. As they dined, Lothar told a story of a maid who betrayed her mistress and asked Hazel what punishment such a person deserved. Unaware that she was revealing her own fate, Hazel replied, "Such a person should be stripped of all her fine clothes, bound in iron chains, and banished from the kingdom." At that moment Lothar stood up and declared, "You have pronounced your own sentence, for you are the maid who betrayed the true princess." He summoned the servants and guards who had witnessed Hazel's deceit and commanded them to seize her. Hazel was stripped of her fine clothes, bound in iron chains, and banished from the kingdom, just as she had described. The prince then turned to Ilara, and in front of the entire court, declared her the true princess. The king and queen, who had been summoned, were overjoyed to see their daughter restored to her rightful place. They embraced her and apologized for the pain she had endured. With Hazel gone and Ilara reinstated, preparations for the royal wedding resumed. The entire kingdom celebrated the union of Prince Lothar and Princess Ilara. The wedding was a grand affair, with feasting, dancing, and joyous celebrations that lasted for days. The fairy brought Falada's head down and brought him back to life. A statue was built in his honor to remind everyone of Falada's loyalty and the truth he revealed. Ilara, now a queen, ruled with wisdom and kindness, her experiences strengthening her resolve to be just and merciful. And they all lived happily ever after.
The title of today's story is The Butterfly Princess, so let's start the story. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Eldoria, there lived a wise and kind king named Alexander. He ruled with fairness and compassion, and earned the love and respect of his subjects. King Alexander had 3 sons, Leo, Adam, and George. Leo, the eldest, was strong and brave. Adam, the middle child, was smart and resourceful. And George, who was the youngest, was gentle and kind and everyone's favorite. Everyone in the kingdom liked him more. As the years passed, King Alexander's health began to deteriorate. Realizing that he had little time, he knew he had to choose an heir to the throne. However, he wanted to ensure that all 3 of his sons were married before taking his final decision. The king called upon his confidant, a wise sage named Zephyrus, to determine the most auspicious time for weddings. Zephyrus, with his knowledge, saw scenes of blooming flowers, clear skies, and light breezes. He announced, "The right time for the wedding is next month." With this knowledge, King Alexander ordered invitations to be sent to all his allies and neighboring kingdoms, announcing the upcoming weddings. The news spread quickly, and princesses from different countries began preparing for the grand event. The kingdom of Eldoria began preparations for the festival. However, amidst this happiness, a dark cloud of jealousy was looming. Leo and Adam were deeply jealous of their youngest brother, George. George was not only the most handsome of the 3, but also the kindest and most beloved of the people. He had natural charisma and a heart full of compassion, which made him beloved by everyone in the kingdom. His elder brothers did not like this favoritism. Determined to humiliate George, Leo and Adam seek the help of an evil witch named Minta. Minta, known for her dark powers and cunning mind, was eager to create discord within the royal family. She agreed to help the brothers but warned them of the consequences. Together, they hatch a plan to humiliate George during an archery tournament, a traditional event where the prince shoots an arrow into the air, and the princess standing where the arrow lands becomes his bride. The day of the competition arrived, and the atmosphere was filled with excitement and anticipation. Princesses from different kingdoms gathered, each hoping to catch the prince's eye. The competition began with Adam shooting his arrow with precision, and it landed in front of Bella, a beautiful and intelligent princess. Next, Leo took his turn, and his arrow found its mark before Princess Eliza, who was known for her grace and kindness. Finally, it was George's turn. He took a deep breath, aimed his arrow, and released it. He didn't realize that Minta's curse had taken effect. The arrow flew wildly, went far beyond the field, and disappeared into the dark forest. Everyone moved forward to find the arrow. In the middle of the forest, George finds his arrow on an ancient, thorny tree. He was surprised to see that a beautiful butterfly with iridescent wings was sitting on the arrow. George was heartbroken to learn that he could not marry a butterfly. Nevertheless, he gently picked her up and walked back towards the palace. King Alexander, following state traditions, insisted that George respect the outcome of the contest. Although he could not marry Butterfly, George accepted her as his partner. This decision causes the people of the kingdom and George's friends to make fun of George, but he stands firm and continues to treat the butterfly with kindness and care. Days turned into weeks, and while Leo and Adam were enjoying their lives with their new brides, George faced constant ridicule. Despite the ridicule, he carried the butterfly with him wherever he went. But one evening, The kingdom organized a grand ceremony in honor of the newly married couple. After much joking, George decided not to take the butterfly with him this time. As he walked among the guests, his eyes fell on a beautiful girl standing alone in the corner. She wore a gown that shone like moonlight, and her eyes sparkled with enchanting light. George felt an irresistible attraction towards her. He came up to her and asked, "Can I dance with you?" The girl remained silent but extended her hand. They danced beautifully the whole evening. As they danced, George felt a sense of belonging. However, the girl looked sad, her eyes full of untold sorrow. As soon as the dance ended, George could not control his curiosity. "Who are you?" he asked softly. "Why do you look so sad?" The girl finally spoke with tears in her eyes. "I'm Princess Nia," she revealed. George further said, "Princess Nia, I want to marry you. Will you marry me?" "But Prince, you already have your mate," Nia said. George was surprised but told Princess Nia all about his fate. "But since I met you, I can't think about anything else," he confessed. Nia told him that first he had to let go of his past. "Leave that butterfly back where you found it," Nia said. Determined, George returned home and decided to set the butterfly free in the wild. He went to the forest to keep the butterfly. As soon as he put it down, a bright light surrounded him. When he opened his eyes, he found Princess Nia standing in front of him. "Nia, you're back," said George, his heart leaping with joy. Nia said sadly, "Yes, I was that butterfly, George. You are like other princes. I thought you would not leave that butterfly alone like this." She continued, "This was a test for you. I cannot live with a prince who is selfish." Saying this, Princess Nia disappeared into the air. George felt very remorseful for his actions. He sat in the forest crying without eating or drinking for so many days. Finally, seeing his bad condition, Princess Nia came back to him. Nia smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "Your love is true," she said. "But you need to know the truth. Your brothers have conspired against you. Because of them you had to face all this." George's heart was filled with both anger and relief. "I'll definitely talk to Dad about it," he vowed. The two returned to the kingdom, with King Alexander sending Leo and Adam to live in the wilderness as punishment. George and Nia begin a new life together full of love and happiness, and the kingdom flourishes under their just and merciful rule. And so George and Princess Nia lived happily ever after, their love serving as a symbol of hope and inspiration for generations to come.
Today's story is about a princess who forgets her own sister. You may have never heard such a story, so let's start. Once upon a time in the ancient kingdom of Idanla, there lived a wise but distant king. He had two beautiful daughters, Addison and Aidan, whom he loved but often neglected. Their stepmother, Queen Amelia, was cruel and treated the princesses harshly in the king's absence. One day, when Addison and Aidan are in their room looking at their new clothes, Amelia suddenly walks in, her face red with anger. "Don't you dare touch these," she whispered and snatched away the dresses the girls were admiring. "But father gave these to us. Why are you doing this?" Aidan asked timidly. "How dare you talk back to me, you ungrateful girl?" Amelia spat. "Remember, I am the queen now, and I make the rules. From now on you will stay confined to this room. I don't want to see your faces." "This is unfair," Addison whispered to Aidan after Amelia left. "When father returns, we'll tell him everything." "But he never listens to us," Aidan replied sadly. "He always sides with Amelia." "We don't belong here, Addison. No one cares about us in this palace." "You're right," Addison said, determination flashing in her eyes. "Let's leave this place and create our own destiny." "Don't worry, Aidan. We'll be fine as long as we have each other." And so the two princesses decided to escape. They ventured deep into the enchanted forest and eventually arrived at the mysterious castle. The massive gates loomed over them, and Addison hesitated. "This must be the castle of the dreaded sorcerer who terrorizes our people," Aidan whispered. Despite their fear, the princesses knew they had to act. "We can't defeat them with brute force," Addison said. "But we can outsmart them. Remember Aidan, the sorcerer, and his wife hate fire." They gathered some smoking pine cones from the forest, knowing these would be their weapon. As night fell, they crept into the castle and waited. Soon, the sorcerer and his wife returned, unaware of the trap set for them. As they entered, Addison and Aiden lit the pine cones, filling the room with thick smoke. "What is this? Where is the smoke coming from?" the sorcerer bellowed. "Get out of here, you evil wizard, or we won't leave you left to hurt anyone," Aiden shouted. "You stop the smoke, we can't bear the smoke," the magician pleaded. "We swear we will leave and never return." The princesses were suspicious of him, but having no other option agreed. "You have to run through that magic mirror," Edison ordered. "Once you leave, we'll break it, so you can never come back." As soon as the magician and his wife stepped in front of the mirror, the wife turned back and cursed the princesses. "You both have won, but soon you both will forget each other. One of you will lose all memories and she will forget all. Only by hugging each other will this curse be broken." Addison and Aiden didn't know whether they should believe the curse or not, but they had no choice. They broke the mirror, trapping the magician and his wife in the other world forever. Then the princesses made the magician's palace their home. Several months passed and they forgot about the curse. But one day Queen Isabella, a queen from a neighboring kingdom, was walking through the woods and caught sight of the castle. At this time she had gone to the forest for work. "This palace is beautiful. Let's stay here for a while," she said to her servants. As soon as they entered, Addison greeted Queen Isabella. At this time Eden had gone to the forest for work. Edison gave them water to drink. "Who are you, and why are you living in this forest?" Queen Isabella asked. But as soon as the queen spoke to Addison, the curse took hold. Addison forgot who she was, how she came to the castle, and even her sister Aiden. I don't remember anything," Addison stammered, looking lost and scared. "Don't worry, my dear," Queen Isabella said kindly. "Come with me to my kingdom. We will take care of you." Addison, who has no memory of her past, agreed. She moved to Queen Isabella's kingdom, where she soon became everyone's favorite because of her good nature and kindness. Meanwhile, Eden returns to the palace one evening and is surprised to find Addison missing. "Addison! Addison! Where are you?" she screamed. Realizing that the curse had come true, Aiden sets out to find her sister. Following the trails left by Queen Isabella's entourage, Aiden traveled to the neighboring kingdom. Once there, she continued to hide and seek, lurking in the woods and inspecting the castle, hoping to catch a glimpse of Addison. Days turned into weeks, and Eden finally saw Addison with Queen Isabella. However, Addison's blank expression revealed that she remembered nothing about her past. Queen Isabella had plans to marry Addison to her son, Prince Edmund. Prince Edmund said to Addison one day, "Mother wants us to get married. But I want you to marry me of your own free will. If you don't want to marry me, I will respect your decision. Who wouldn't want to marry a prince as kind as you, Prince? I will marry you." As their wedding day approaches, Aiden decides to take a bold step. She learned that Addison often visited a quiet pond in the palace gardens, a place that soothed her troubled heart. One evening, when Addison was at the pond, Aiden came up to her. "Addison," she whispered softly. Addison turned around, startled. Who are you?" she asked in surprise. Eden came closer and hugged her sister tightly. "I'm Aiden, your sister. Remember Addison." As soon as they hugged each other, the curse was broken. Addison's memories came flooding back, and she started crying. "Aiden, I remember everything. How could I forget you?" The sisters were reunited, and Addison told the whole story to Queen Isabella. The queen, impressed by their bond, blesses their reunion and gives Addison and Aiden her blessing to return to their kingdom. Soon afterward, Prince Edmund and Addison were married. Eden also found happiness, and the two sisters ruled their kingdom with wisdom and compassion, and never forgot the strength of their bond.
The title of today's story is The Beauty and the Beast. So let's start the story. Once upon a time, in a distant land, there was a wealthy merchant who lived with his 3 daughters. The youngest daughter, Bella, was known far and wide for her beauty and kindness. Unlike her older sisters, who were spoiled and selfish, Bella was humble and loved to read books and spend time in the garden. Her gentle nature made her beloved by everyone in the village. One day the merchant received news that one of his ships, long thought lost, had arrived in port. Believing that his fortune had returned, he set out to the city to reclaim his goods. Before leaving, he asked his daughters what gifts they would like him to bring back. The eldest asked for fine dresses, the second for jewels, but Bela asked for nothing except a single rose. The merchant traveled to the city, but upon his arrival, he discovered that his cargo had been seized to pay off his debts. Disheartened, he began his journey home with nothing for his daughters. On his way back, he got lost in a dark, dense forest. As night fell, the merchant stumbled upon a grand, mysterious castle. He approached it and was surprised to find that the doors were open. The castle seemed deserted, but a warm fire was burning in the hearth, and a feast was laid out on the table. The merchant, cold and hungry, gratefully ate the food and fell asleep by the fire. The next morning, he explored the castle and found a beautiful garden filled with flowers. Remembering Bella's request, he picked a single rose to take home to her. As soon as he plucked the rose, a fearsome beast appeared, roaring with anger. "How dare you steal my rose?" the beast bellowed. "You have eaten my food, slept in my castle, and now you take my most prized possession. For this you must pay with your life." Terrified, the merchant begged for mercy and explained that the rose was a gift for his daughter. The beast paused and then made a proposal. "I will spare your life, but you must send your daughter to live with me here in the castle. If she does not come willingly, you must return in her place." The merchant reluctantly agreed and returned home with a heavy heart. He told Bella everything that had happened. She loved her father dearly and could not bear the thought of him being harmed, so she agreed to go to the beast's castle. When Bella arrived at the palace, she was welcomed with kindness. The beast, although terrifying in appearance, treated her with great care and respect. She was given a beautiful room filled with new clothes and everything she needed. And every day, the beast joined her for dinner, asking her about her day and listening to her stories. At first, Bella was afraid of him, but as time passed, she began to realize that the beast was not as cruel as he appeared. The castle was filled with magic, and Bella found herself surrounded by enchanted objects that seemed as if they had a life of their own. The candelabra, the clock, and the teapot all talked to her and kept her company during the day. Days turned into weeks. Bella was no longer afraid of him and started enjoying his company. She would read him her favorite books, and they would talk for hours about everything under the sun. However, every night before parting, the beast would ask Bella the same question. "Will you marry me?" Each time, Bella would gently refuse, as she still thought of him only as a friend. Although the beast was saddened by her response, he never pressured her and always treated her with kindness. One day, Bella asked the beast if she could visit her father, who had fallen ill. The beast agreed, but asked Bella to promise to return in a week. He gave her a magical ring which she could wear to meet her father. Bella returned home and was very happy to see her father again. However, her sisters were jealous of her nice clothes and jewelry, and the love the beast had for her. They conspired to prevent her from returning to the palace, hoping that the beast would become angry and punish her. They pretended to be so affectionate and kind that Bella agreed to stay for a few more days. But as the days passed, she started having nightmares about the beast. She saw him lying alone and broken in the garden. In her dreams, he was becoming weaker and weaker as if he was dying. Realizing that she has broken her promise, Bella uses the magic ring to return to the castle. She found the animal lying in the garden, just as she had seen in her dreams. He was pale and silent, and Bella feared she was too late. "No, you can't die," Bella cried, tears streaming down her face. "I love you. I can't live without you." At those words, a bright light surrounded the beast, and to Bella's surprise, he began to transform. The thick fur fell out, the claws disappeared, and before her stood the handsome prince who had once been a beast. The curse was broken. The prince explained that he was formerly a handsome prince, but an evil fairy had cursed him because of his arrogance. The curse can only be broken if one learns to love him despite his appearance. Her love had saved him from the curse, and he asked her to marry him once again. This time Bella said yes, because she loved him not for his looks but for his kind heart. The enchanted objects in the palace transformed back into loyal servants of the prince, and the palace itself came alive with joy. Bela and the prince were married in a grand ceremony, and the entire kingdom was celebrating their happiness. Bela's father was invited to live with them in the palace, and her sisters who had treated her so badly were forgiven. Yet sent to live in a distant country where they were forced to earn a living, will have to work for it. They will have to learn the values of kindness and humility. Bela and the prince ruled the kingdom with wisdom and compassion. And so, they lived happily ever after, proving that true beauty lies within, and that love has the power to transform even the darkest heart.